Hello, and welcome to another episode of Artfully Orange. I'm Vicki Landon with Orange County Arts and Cultural Affairs, and I am here today with Eric Jacobsen, who is the founder of Brooklyn Rider, the co-founder of the Knights, a member of the Silk Road, music director for the Orlando Philharmonic Orchestra and the Virginia Symphony Orchestra, is a dad, a husband, and a resident of Orange County. Thank you for being here with us today.
Vicki, thanks so much for having me. This is so much fun to get to speak.
We're so grateful that we have you here. I wanted to see, I just listed off a litany of ensembles and organizations with which you are affiliated. Can you tell me a little bit about some of them and what makes them different from each other?
Absolutely. I mean, I got a little tired when you went through that list there. Well, so, I mean, you went through a quick list, and I don't have to go into the bio history stuff, but I'm a cellist by training. I grew up in a musician's household. My father, violinist. My mother was a flute player. My older brother is an incredible violinist and someone who I collaborate with quite a bit. And I grew up in, two violins and a flute in a house. That's a lot of high pitched voices. So they needed some bass. So I became the cellist. My brother and I, after I guess I was still at Juilliard, he had just graduated, he's 4 years older. We started a string quartet together called Brooklyn Rider, and it was really fun. I played in that group for about 10 years. And maybe, around the same time, I started conducting, and my brother and I started this group called The Knights, which is an orchestra that continues today. We play 3 concerts at Carnegie every year and usually tour once every year. And during that time, that first 10 years after school, which I think everyone can relate to, is like a really epic time in people's life, like the moments of change. You're meeting people who will become your people for the rest of your life. That's when I started figuring out that actually conducting was more or less my true, I don't know if calling is the right word, but the thing I wanted most. And my relationship with the Brooklyn Rider Quartet, I sunset that about a little over 10 years ago, right before I came here to Orlando, started conducting here. And I conducted the Orlando Philharmonic from afar, as most conductors and music directors do in America, which is I lived in New York. And from 2016 till 2020, I just commuted and played concerts here. And I had a place here in town, but it was the idea of like coming to town. And then during the pandemic, moved down here because the orchestra amazingly was able to work and play at Exploria Stadium outdoors for a season. And my wife and daughter and I fell in love with the community. We love living here. We live downtown. We walk everywhere, and it's kind of very similar to the place that we were coming from, which is Brooklyn. And you mentioned the Virginia Symphony, which is the orchestra that exists in Norfolk and Virginia Beach and Williamsburg, and an incredible group. In some ways very similar, in some ways very different than Orlando, as every community is different that has an orchestra. And those are sort of the things that I do. And I luckily also get to guest conduct with various orchestras around the country and in Europe. And, it's pretty fun. It's, a lot of travel. Sometimes the travel's extra, but, it's fun to get to meet people along the line and different artists and different musicians. That's a snapshot, and sorry to ramble on.
You did not at all. That's great. We can end the interview. We're done.
Done.
But,
see you later. Bye.
So, you mentioned that you've got a lot of higher tone instruments in your family growing up. So you started with the cello. Is the cello the first instrument you ever actually laid hands on as a child? Or do you have memories of like playing with the violin before that?
No, I'm told the story goes that I wanted to play the violin like my brother and father, but that my parents, who were musicians, didn't want, competition. And I was always a little taller for my age than most. So the cello is a larger instrument. Sometimes that means it might be easier to play for someone larger. Not true, however. So many of the great cellists are not tall. It just happened to be a reason that they gave me oh, look, you're tall. You should have the cool big cello. Could have been the same thing for the cool small violin or cool. But no, that was that. I don't remember ever wanting. And, I come from a family that was very dedicated to classical music, and there wasn't much milling about looking at other instruments. You kind of chose your thing and you dug right in. Um, my wife, on the other hand, who is a singer-songwriter, and she's the one with the Grammy in the family. She both guitarist and pianist, and probably can mess around on other strummed instruments, and writes her own songs. She has more a versatile ability to play. I am, as they say, a one-trick pony.
Well, not exactly a one-trick pony, because you've got a conducting as well alongside your playing.
It's true.
You know,
Yes.
I'm remembering back to when I was expecting my first child, and a musician friend of mine, when she found out we were having a boy, she went, "Oh, how wonderful. What will he play?" Like, there was just this
Yeah.
assumption that, of course, this child is going to play an
Of
instrument, because why
course. Of
wouldn't it?
course.
And so I'm thinking about the household you were raised in. I'm thinking about, your profession as well as your wife's, and I see her poster behind you. And do you expect that your daughter will continue the legacy?
My daughter does play cello. She's 7, and she's doing great. She loves it. She is incredibly talented, and I think the love and the talent will definitely lead her to play music in her life and enjoy music in her life. I think my answer is that I just want to create a world where my daughter can be joyous and happy, and work really, really hard at whatever she does. I have no interest in my daughter being okay at things. Whatever she wants to do, I can tell she wants to be great at it. And I think it behooves the parent to consider how to give a child the tools that they need, because they don't know. And they know what they want, and it's hard to get there. And I'll tell you, I, as a younger person, needed a lot of motivation to do the thing that I wanted to do. Even though I wanted to do it, it was still a hard thing to dig down and say, I'm going to sit here and practice. And whether it's that, or just being good at reading, or at, gardening or something, I do think that we should strive that not only is the next generation possibly able to connect more dots and be more joyous and happy, but also be better than us. There's no question I want my daughter to be better than me at every single thing. And yesterday, when we were swimming laps after her swim class or whatever, she's like, "Oh, let's race," and I'm like, "Okay," and I went easy on her, and she was right next to me, and I was so excited. I was like, "Oh, she's very close to better than me at this thing," and it just made me so happy.
I love that. So I'm thinking about a lot of like the rigor and discipline that it takes to have this career and to have this skill set, and the hours and practice and reading. And I'm wondering what the prep looks like and what that rigor and discipline looks like for conducting work compared to cellist work.
It's a big topic, and a very different. I don't think there are many conductors who became conductors and became great conductors without being excellent at something other than conducting. I mean, it's not, I guess it would be similar to, say, being a chef, but having never been a line cook, or, running an organization, but never having worked within an organization. You kind of have to know how the thing works. And it doesn't mean you have to play all the instruments. Far from it. I doubt many conductors play more than a couple instruments, or just one. But I think it's about being and achieving something. And I would say that, and people talk about this regularly, but learning an instrument, and take the Orlando Philharmonic. Every musician in the Orlando Philharmonic that gets on stage every week or every other week has dedicated themselves so much to a thing, to learning their instrument, to playing their instrument, to being excellent. And we come together, and the collective amount of hours spent on stage to learn your instruments is hundreds of thousands and millions. And we think about where that puts us as a society. What is it that we can do as a group together when we're good at something together? And I think the conducting thing which is different than playing an instrument, big time different, because the physicality, if anyone listening to this has played an instrument, it's incredibly challenging. To be okay at it, it's challenging. To be good at something is like impossible, and to be great at something is, it's a star that strikes the sky. And I think that's so exciting. I mean, it's the plus and the minus of what musicians do, right? There's no clocking out. We just keep on doing the thing at 5:00 p.m. If I haven't worked enough, if I haven't studied, if I haven't looked at my score, if I haven't practiced, well, the day doesn't end. And that's one of the biggest challenges. It's also one of the great, beautiful things, is that this is something we try. We keep on trying, and we try to be good, and we try and try and try. And it's very rewarding, yet it's also a struggle. And I think that's the thing. So for conducting, however, having been a cellist, having been in the world where you experience what it is to play an instrument, the transformation of that world to being a conductor, it becomes much more about like a social environment on how to bring people together, how to create a mutual understanding, being a catalyst for bringing people together with one vision. While you could have 60 musicians on stage, 20 of them are from different countries, and every single one of them is from a different culture. And so how do we get to the same place and say, this is our message that we're distributing into the world? And boy, are we trying our best to do the one thing that we're supposed to do, which is communicate with humans. And as we, as a society, step farther away from, one-on-one or group settings of just being together for all the obvious reasons, the concert hall, like the Orlando Phil, walking out on stage, playing a concert, that direct communication with humanity is kind of one of the most beautiful things. And we just strive for that constantly.
Absolutely. Okay, so last question for us today, right?
Yeah.
You and your family are global citizens, right? You can be in New York, you're in Florida, you can travel, you are around the globe doing your performances. What is it about Orange County and the Orlando Philharmonic Orchestra that keeps you here?
The Orlando Phil is one of the great orchestras in this country, and it is also one of the great families. The community of the Philharmonic, and now when I say that, I mean all the musicians on stage, all the board members, all the patrons who are like really part of the family, the friends of the Philharmonic, the audience. It's a very deeply knit community, and no question that is what brought me here, brought my wife to be aware of it. And then when we moved down here during the pandemic, we knew we liked Orlando. We knew that this was a place that was spectacular. And I think as I look out across, my vegetable garden outside and think about, what a life is like, what are we supposed to do as humans? Are we supposed to ask all of the right questions and get all the right answers? I don't know, but I've found that living in Orlando gives me a sense of quality of life that is pretty spectacular. And I would say that the friends that I've been able to luckily meet and be in a sort of like family of friends, friend community has been just such a blessing. And I can't imagine my life without those humans. And it's pretty great. My daughter goes to a great school. My wife and I, who travel, probably 4 or 5 months of the year, this is home, and it feels great to be here.
Well, we are so grateful that we get to count you amongst our family and community here in Orange County. I'm really grateful for your time today. Thank you so much for joining us and chatting.
Vicki, thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Artfully Orange.